Good morning, students. In our previous video, we have discussed about the story and summary of the Blue Bead. We have read about the crocodile's appearance, Sebia's poor life, the Gujars, and how the women got paper grass. Today, we'll continue with the same. So by the end of this video, you will be able to learn the summary of the story, the Blue Bead, learn the theme of the story, the Blue Bead, learn the title of the story, the Blue Bead, and learn about the setting of the story, the Blue Bead. Gujar woman's struggle with crocodile. Sebia came down alone on the stepping stones. She stepped onto the first stone. When she was halfway over, she put her load down on a big boulder to rest. So children, after Sebia's mother had gone along with the other women, Sebia came down to the stepping stones with a load of grass on her back. The load was heavy for her, and so she was forced to rest on a big boulder. At the same moment, a Gujar woman came down with 2 pitchers to the water on the other side. In order to get the good clear water, she walked onto the stepping stones. This was the time when Sebia noticed a Gujar woman with 2 pitchers going down to the river, walking onto the stepping stones for filling water in them. She was within a yard of the crocodile when he lunged at her. The woman screamed, dropped both brass pots with a clatter on the boulder, and Sebia saw them bob away in the current. Let us discuss the meanings, children. Lunged, moved forward suddenly and attacked. Bob, a quick shot down and up motion. So children, the Gujar woman was ignorant of the fact that the crocodile was a yard away from her. It attacked her at her legs with his mighty jaws. The woman screamed in pain and dropped both the pots with a clatter on the stone. Sebia saw the pitchers quickly bobbing in the current of the water. The Gujar woman recoiled from the crocodile, but his jaws closed on her leg. At the same moment, she slipped and fell on the bone-breaking stone. Let us discuss the meanings, children. Recoiled, jumped back in fear. So the Gujar woman jumped back in fear, but the crocodile had a strong grip on the woman's leg. She then slipped and fell on the bone-breaking stone. She clutched one of the timber logs to save herself. The log jammed between 2 boulders with the woman clinging to it and screaming, while the crocodile pulled on her leg, trying to carry her off into the depths of the pool. Blood spread everywhere. Clutched, held. Jammed, got stuck. Clinging, hanging. So children, the woman held one of the timber log which was jammed between 2 big boulders to save herself. She was continuously screaming, whereas the crocodile was trying to take her into the deep water. The woman's blood spread everywhere. Sebia sprang. From boulder to boulder, she came leaping like a goat, and in one moment, she was beside the shrieking woman. The crocodile's eyes rolled onto Sebia. One slap of tail could kill her. He struck up. Up shot the water, 20 feet, and fell like a chain. Let us discuss the meanings, children. Sprang, jumped. Leaping, jumping. Beside, by the side of. Slap, tap. There are 2 literary devices also, children. Like a rock goat. It's a simile. Sebia has been compared to a rock goat. And like a silver chain. It's a simile again. Water has been compared to a silver chain. So children, any other person might not have tried to reach such a predator as the crocodile and might have run away to call for help. But Sebia had that courage. She jumped and in one moment reached the spot by the side of the shrieking woman. The crocodile had a look at Sebia. One tap of his tail could have killed Sebia. The crocodile did the same. He slapped his tail, and the tap was so mighty that the water in the river rose 20 feet and fell like a silver chain. Sebia's attack on the crocodile. Sebia aimed at the reptile's body, that is his eyes, with all the force of her little body. She drove the hay fork at the eyes and one prong went in, while its spear scratched past on the horny cheek. The crocodile reared up in convulsion and then disappeared. Sebia got her arms around the fainting woman and somehow dragged her from the water. Let us discuss the meanings, children. Prong is the pointed part of her hay fork. Reared, jumped. Convulsion, in a violent shaking movement. So Sebia attacked the eyes of the crocodile with her hay fork using all the might she had. One prong of her hay fork went right into the eye, whereas another one scratched the cheek of the crocodile. The animal, being hurt in the eyes, lost his grip on the woman. It jumped back with a sudden shaking movement and disappeared. Sebia got her arms around the woman and somehow dragged her from the water. So children, the only parts of the crocodile which could be easily attacked were his eyes and armpits. So Sebia took a prompt decision and saved the life of the woman. She stopped her wounds with sand and bound them with a rag and helped her home to the Gujjar encampment, where the men made a litter to carry her to someone for treatment. Then Sebia went back for her grass and sickle and fork. Let us discuss the meanings, children. Bound, tied. Litter, a device such as a stretcher for carrying a sick or injured person. So Sebia stopped the oozing blood from the wounds with sand and tied a rag around them. She helped the woman reach safely at the encampment. There at the encampment, the Gujjar men made a stretcher and carried her for some treatment. Sebia went back and got her grass and sickle and hay fork. She gathered all the things and set off home. On the way back, she met her mother. She was worried as she thought something must have happened to her. But Sebia, bursting with her story, cried, "Something did. I found a blue bead for my necklace. Look." Now children, Sebia gathered all the things and went back her home. While returning home, she met her worried mother, who thought that something must have happened to Sebia. Sebia very positively cried out to her mother that she had found a blue bead for her necklace. So children, finding the blue bead seemed more important to Sebia than saving a life. This shows that she was not boastful but very humble. Let us quickly read the theme of the story, The Blue Bead. In this story, The Blue Bead, the writer narrates the heroic deed of a 12-year-old Indian girl who saves the life of a Gujjar woman. The story conveys the idea that we do not need superpowers to help others. We need to toughen up to help others. Sebia, the young girl, displays the rare courage and presence of mind to save the Gujjar woman from the crocodile. So children, the story The Blue Bead depicts the extraordinary power of human courage. If we have courage and will in us, we can always find a way. Sebia, an Indian girl, hardly 12 years old, sees a Gujjar woman being attacked by a ferocious crocodile. She displays her rare courage and presence of mind and saves the life of the Gujjar woman from the crocodile. The story thus conveys the idea that we need not have any superpowers or extraordinary powers to help others. We just need to toughen up to help others. Sebia is a young girl who is marked for work since her childhood. During her childhood, she husked corn, gathered sticks and put dung to dry, cooked food and cut grass for fodder. So children, Sebia, the poor girl, was marked for work. There seemed to be no rest in her life, as she had been performing all the household tasks, from husking corn to gathering sticks, from putting dung to dry to cook food and cut grass for fodder. She was accustomed to the toils of daily life. She was going with her mother and other women to get paper grass from the cliffs above the river. On the way, they pass a Gujjar encampment of grass huts where the nomadic graziers lived. Let us discuss the meanings, children. Grass, paper grass, grass present on the cliffs above river. Cliffs, a high steep area like a rock. Encampment, a place where a group lives. Nomadic, people who move about. And graziers, people who graze animals. So children, it was Sebia's regular routine to get paper grass from the cliff above the river with her mother and other women of the community. On their way, they came across camps of grass huts in which resided the Gujars. They were nomadic graziers. The women reached the river. They came out on the shore and made for stepping stones. They shouted above the gush of the river. Noise frightens crocodiles. The big crocodile did not move, and all the women crossed in safety to the other bank. Here they had to climb a still hillside to get at the grass. So children, the women reached the river and could hear it rushing. They came out on the shore and made for stepping stones. They shouted loudly while crossing the river because noise frightens crocodiles. The big crocodile, scared of noise, did not move, and all the women crossed the river safely to the other bank. From here, they climbed a still hillside to get the paper grass. Down below there ran the river. Great turtles and crocodiles lived there. Now it was time for the women to return to their homes. The loaded women set out to cross the river. Sebia hung back to see the clay cups. The women crossed the river safely. Silence fell. So children, down below the cliff, there ran a river in which great turtles and the crocodiles lived. Now it was the time of evening, so the women started going back to their home. The women, loaded with paper grass, set out to cross the river again. Sebia stayed back to have a look at her clay cups. The women crossed the river safely and silence fell. Children, as we had already discussed the meaning of loaded women, the loaded women were the women who were loaded with paper grass, and hung back meant stayed back. Sebia put her load down on a boulder. At the same time, a Gujar woman came to get clear water in her 2 pitchers. She walked into the stepping stones. Now children, what is the meaning of a boulder? A huge stone. Pitchers, containers for holding and pouring liquid. So children, Sebia put her load down on a big boulder. This was the time when she noticed a Gujar woman with 2 earthen pitchers going down to the river, walking onto the stepping stones for filling the pitchers with fresh water. She was within a yard of the crocodile when he lunged at her. The woman screamed and dropped both the brass pots. Let us discuss the meanings, children. Lunged means moved forward suddenly and attacked. So the Gujar woman, children, was ignorant of the fact that the crocodile was just a yard away from her. It attacked her at her legs with its mighty jaws. The woman screamed in pain and dropped both the pots with a clatter on the stone. The Gujar woman recoiled from the crocodile, but his jaws closed on her leg at the same moment as she slipped and fell on the stone and clinched one of the timbers to save herself. Let us discuss the meanings, children. Recoiled, jumped back in fear. Slipped, slid. Clenched, held. So children, the Gujar woman jumped back in fear, but the crocodile had a strong grip on the woman's leg. She then slipped and fell on the bone-breaking stone. She held one of the timber log to save herself. The log jammed between 2 boulders with the woman clinging to it and screaming, while the crocodile pulled on her leg and tried to carry her off into the depth of the pool. Blood spread everywhere. Sebia sprang. She aimed at the reptile's eyes. Let us discuss the meanings, children. Jammed, got struck. Clinging, hanging. Sprang, jumped. Reptiles refers to crocodiles. So children, this was the log that had jammed between 2 big boulders, and the woman had clenched to this timber to save herself. She was continuously screaming whereas the crocodile was trying to drive her into the deep water. The woman's blood spread everywhere. Sebia aimed at the crocodile's eyes. With all the force of her little body, she drove the hayfork at the eyes of the crocodile. The crocodile reared up in convulsion and then disappeared. Let us discuss the meanings, children. Hayfork, a small tool with a long handle with sharp prongs used for lifting hay. Reared up, jumped up. Convulsion, in a violent shaking movement. Disappeared, got away. So children, Sebia attacked the eyes of the crocodile with her hayfork using all the might she had. One prong of her hayfork went right into the eye, whereas the another one scratched the cheek of the crocodile. The animal was hurt in the eyes and thus lost his grip on the woman. This jumped back with a sudden shaking movement and disappeared. She dragged the woman out from the water and saved her life. This shows that Sebia is a bold, selfless and helpful girl. She is simple and modest and does not brag about her act of bravery. The story reflects the idea that, like Sebia, we should also do selfless deeds to help others. Dragged, pulled. Sebia got her arms around the woman and somehow dragged her out from the water. So children, this story shows that Sebia is a bold, selfless and helpful girl. She does not boast about her bravery. She is simple and humble girl. The story thus reflects that, like Sebia, everyone should help others selflessly. Let us read the title of the story, children. The title of the story, The Blue Bead, is very misleading, but it is also very effective because it reflects the true character of Sebia, the protagonist of the story. The title reveals that she is a simple, humble and modest girl. She does not brag about her act of bravery. Protagonist is the main character of the story. So children, the title of the story, The Blue Bead, is a little confusing, but it is very effective. It is confusing because it shows that the story must be about some blue bead, but actually it is not. Yet this story's title is quite effective. This depicts the true character of Sebia, the protagonist of the story. The title reveals Sebia is a simple, humble and modest girl who is not boastful at all. She does not brag about her act of saving the Gujjar woman's life from a crocodile. At the end of the story, when her mother asks her what happened to her, she responds by telling her about the blue bead she has found and not about her act of saving a woman's life. She is not proud of saving the life of the woman, but is excited to get the blue bead. So the title, The Blue Bead, is effective and meaningful. At the end of the story, children, when Sebia's mother asks her what happened to her since she was late, she enthusiastically replies that she has found a glittering blue bead. The fighting and killing a crocodile was not as big an achievement for her as that of finding a glittering blue bead. A blue bead was one of the most unattainable wonders for her that she managed to attain at the end. And thus, the title, The Blue Bead, is both effective and meaningful. So children, you can see these are the beads. So this sort of bead was found by Sebia. Let us discuss the setting of the story, children. The story is set in a village which revolves around a poor, brave young girl who saves the life of a Gujjar woman from the crocodile. There is a river nearby in which turtles and crocodiles live. Gujjar woman comes to get clear water from the river in her 2 pitchers. Children, Nora Burke, who is the author of the story, her works are mostly set in and around India. She drew on her own background for the setting of her books. A large part of this story, The Blue Bead, is set in the vast forests of India along the foothills of the Himalayas. So the story is set in a village which revolves around a poor, brave young girl named Sebia. She saves the life of a Gujjar woman from a mugger crocodile. There is a river nearby in which turtles and crocodiles lived. A Gujjar woman comes to get clean drinking water from this river. She walks onto the stepping stone. She is within a yard of the crocodile when he lunges at her. The woman screams. She recoils from the crocodile, but his jaws close on her at the same moment as she slips and falls on the stone and clutches one of the timber logs to save herself. Let us discuss the meanings, children. Lunges, moves forward suddenly and attacks. Screams, shouts. Recoils, jumps back in fear. Clutches, holds. So children, the Gujjar woman is ignorant of the fact, of course, that the crocodile is not very far away from her. The crocodile attacks at her legs with its mighty jaws. The woman screams in pain and drops the brass pots with a clatter on the stone. She jumps back in fear, but the crocodile has a strong grip on her leg. She then slips and falls on the stone. The woman holds one of the timber log to save herself. The crocodile pulls on her leg and tries to carry her off into the depth of the pool. Blood spreads everywhere. Sebia aims at the reptile's eyes. Children, the crocodile does not leave the woman's leg and tries to carry her off into the depth of the pool. The woman's blood is spread everywhere. Sebia then aims at the reptile's eyes. With all the force of her little body, she drives the hay fork at the eyes and the crocodile rears up in convulsion and disappears. Thus, she saves the life of the Gujjar woman. The significant action takes place in the river. So children, let us discuss the meanings first. Convulsion means in a violent shaking movement. So Sebia attacks the eyes of the crocodile with her hay fork using all the might that she has. One prong of her hay fork goes right into the eye, whereas the other one scratches the cheek of the crocodile. The animal being hurt in the eyes loses its grip on the woman. It jumps back with a sudden shaking movement and disappears. All this important action takes place in the river. That is all for the day today, children. For your homework, do the homework given to you in the Snap homework app. Thank you.